welcome to episode 6 of my vlog. My learnings from last week were don't use your cheap camera and get the lighting just right. I looked like I'd been on the sunbed for about a week in last week's show, but hey ho, you learn, you live and learn. So this week, a couple of tidy up things from next week. I'm not letting this issue go of this unhealthy industry that we have created in tennis coaching. So I'm going to keep on going with that, but not necessarily in this show. I have had probably the biggest response out of all the vlogs. And again, I would say the absolute majority have been behind closed doors, private messages, emails, texts, and so on. Only Selena Coburn and Dave Gattro had the courage and the bravery to thrash it out a little bit on my Tennis Journal page on Facebook. So I'm keen for people to express and share their thoughts in the open, if you like, because that's how we can get into healthy conversations and help each other out. If you're not comfortable with that, I'm going to pretty much just ask you to reflect on why. Is it saving face? Are you worried about what people might think? Try and get over that. I think we need to share and open up as much as we can, and hopefully no one will judge you if we all agree that we're all just trying to help. So I've had 2 people in particular, I won't mention their name, that have expressed, among many other people, that they too had these thoughts about the getting to a stage, investing maybe 10 years of their life and then getting to a stage where they want to further themselves and they felt that they couldn't because the industry is not very clear and where the paths are and so on. And also reflecting on that stage of life where they want to settle down. I don't like those words. I think we should always build up. But metaphorically settle down, have balance between work and life, have a family if that is what you wish, of course. Not suggesting that you have to have kids to be fulfilled, but they couldn't because the career, or they did, and they were finding that it was actually too much of a stress on the relationship. So they changed things and put things in place to counter that. So it got me thinking that, of course, I have my podcast show, which is primarily aimed at chatting with one guest, but I quite like the idea of doing specials, and the specials could be about any other topic. It could even be unrelated to the tennis world and how we can learn from it. I've got one person who has agreed to do something in the future who had a steady job and has quit his steady job and is doing what he considers his dream job. And it's a great story, so I'm going to interview him. But I think we could do a podcast special on this topic of the industry, but it's only going to be with people that have experienced it and changed something and been successful. I don't want to have 5 or 6 people on bitching and moaning about how crap their life is and so on. So I'll park that just for now, and I'll probably come back to it in other ways in the near future, but I think we're going to do that podcast special maybe in the new year sometime. So what I wanted to do this show was something slightly different. I've had a couple of comments, and I know some of you will be watching this and that know me going, why are you biting? I'm not biting. I'm going to turn it into an educational piece. But suggestions that I'm doing these podcasts and vlogs for no other reason than to become famous. First of all, the thought of me being famous literally makes me want to heave. I cannot imagine anything worse than being famous. I am a very private person, contrary to what some people think, and I have no desire to be in that game at all. What I am trying to do is perhaps sow seeds for change. And it just so happens that we live in a world now where the easiest way for me to do that is through media and social media and so on. But to be honest, one of the things I'm getting most out of it is actually producing something. And again, those of you that know me know that I hate the term produce when we talk about players. If you want to be literal, it's only parents that produce players, we are very lucky to play a small part in helping them develop into something towards their potential. So with these, I'm actually producing something. I'm actually enjoying the process of doing it, and you'll find out why in a second. So I have some notes here. So I thought I speak a little bit in my talks on confidence, nice plug there, about introvert versus extrovert. And there's a lot of social perceptions, I think, about extrovert versus introvert. The biggest one being that extroverts are the powerful leaders and introverts are meek and weak almost. And as an introvert, I take offense to that. So I've done a little bit of research over the years, nothing major, but just kind of read up on it. And there's some fundamental differences between introvert and extrovert. So what I want you to do if you're going to watch this is reflect on what you are, but most importantly, don't just accept it, try and embrace the opposite end of the spectrum. So I'm introvert, so my natural reaction used to be towards extroverts, like I just shied away from them. I kind of had a bit of a chip on my shoulder about people that were big and dominant and so on. But over the years, I've started to try and embrace this, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that quite often means that if I don't like public speaking, which I don't, as in naturally, then I'm going to do it. So I want to try and put myself in that discomfort to try and learn and find somewhere in between. So I'm going to rattle through these and see if you can reflect on what you are. So one of the most interesting ones I find is that people think introverts just are quiet, weak, meek, whatever words you want to use, that they don't like expressing themselves. They can be the social butterflies. They can be the person that leads lots of people. But the biggest difference is that afterwards they need to recharge the batteries by being by themselves. So I can do all those things, and I can work with 100 people on one tennis court. In Singapore, we did it, 101 people on one tennis court, and I can help lead that. But the reality is it absolutely drains my batteries, and I need some time alone to recharge them. Whereas an extrovert would actually be the opposite. They feed off that. And if they spent time by themselves, they are almost draining their battery. So that, for me, is almost the fundamental difference. So it doesn't mean that an introvert's quiet and an extrovert's loud. It just means that whichever one they are doing, or whatever thing they are doing, it either drains them or recharges them. It just happens to be the opposite thing that recharges them. So think about that for you, and think about the type of work that you do, when you're most comfortable, and so on. Could be you're more comfortable one-on-one versus groups and all that sort of stuff, if you're a coach. Extroverts enjoy big group conversations, normally because they're the center of them, where introverts prefer one-on-one. Again, I much prefer a one-on-one, but I have to do big group stuff as well. Introverts have fewer friends but have maybe closer bonds, whereas extroverts have more friends but less close. Yeah, and I'm very much on that introvert side. I could probably count my real friends on maybe 1.5 hands, and they are close. They're confidants. I can tell them anything. I share anything with them, and I know it's not going anywhere else. And I don't mind making lots of friends, and on social media and so on, I make lots of acquaintances and friends, and I'm happy to do that. But the reality is that I'll always go back to my handful of closest friends. Introverts listen more, extroverts speak more. Yeah, so again, contrary to this type of stuff where I'm speaking all the time, my natural preference is to listen. I'm a curious person. I would much rather be the person that speaks last. So this is a very uncomfortable thing for me. What are you like? Do you like to speak more or listen more? Tennis coaches, in my experience, tend to want to speak more rather than listen. Extroverts easily accept change. Introverts struggle with change. I struggle with change big time, so imagine how uncomfortable it is for me to even be suggesting a massive shift in industry in trying to make the coaching world a healthier place. That's quite daunting for me, but I'm not suggesting I'm going to do it. I'm certainly not going to lead it, but I can maybe be the mediator or instigate something, sow seeds, etc. How do you feel about change? Extroverts get distracted very easily, whereas introverts have a long focus on, or can focus for long times on certain things. So again, I am much happier. Probably my favorite thing about all these podcasts and vlogs is actually the editing of them, because I lock myself in my study and I just crack on with process. I like to submerge myself in process. Whereas an extrovert would be distracted quite easily with all those different things. So extroverts are more open, introverts more reserved. I don't think that's a shock to anyone. My natural character is to be very shy and reserved. And again, because of the work I do, people don't believe me when I say that, but the people that know me from when I was a kid know 100% that that is the truth. Where are you on that spectrum? More open to being more reserved? How does that affect your coaching? Extroverts open to anyone, whereas introverts open to a few. Talked about that already. I suppose that would be about making new acquaintances. Are you cynical? This is a good analogy for you to think about. If you were a judge on an ice skating or gymnastics or dancing and so on, how would you mark people? So would you start them as a 10 and every time you see something wrong, you knock off a mark? Or would you start them at 0 and every time you see something good, build them up towards a 10? Think about that. Which one are you? I know which one I am. How does that affect the way you look at players, the way you see potential and so on? And extroverts, quick decision makers. Introverts struggle again with that decision. They have to reflect a lot. I think they call it a procrastinator. I mull over things way too much. And therefore it can take me sometimes longer than it should, I think, to make decisions. But I'm getting better at that because I'm practiced it, because I embrace the other side of the spectrum. Where are you on that scale? Extroverts love attention, and this is the one I laugh my ass off at. Extroverts love attention, introverts not interested. I genuinely don't want any attention. I know that sounds weird. I'm doing this vlog. And I'm doing these podcasts and so on, but the podcasts are perfect for me because I'm literally hardly saying anything, and the guest is speaking 99% of the time. I'm just kind of leading it and mediating it, if you like. But I'm not interested in attention. It doesn't float my boat one little bit. Where are you on that spectrum? Finally, extroverts love to speak up. Whereas introverts tend to only speak up when they are asked for their opinion. And that can sometimes be perceived as they are not leaders. But I remember one of the best leaders I've ever seen. I won't say his name, but he worked for a global company, a FTSE 100 company. And one of the best tips he gave me was, if you want to get your point across, speak last. Listen to everyone and then cherry pick the best bits from everyone. Affirm their opinions and then add yours at the end, and you will have everyone's attention, and because you can massage their ego. And this person was a natural introvert, but he was the leader of a FTSE 100 oil company, and unbelievable person at that as well. So that's a bit of a different one, but I wanted to put that out there for you to reflect on. What end of the spectrum are you? It's not this way, it's this way. So it's not extroverts, introvert. That was what I used to think. It's now this, and it could be left, right, left, I don't care. We're all equal. There's no, you're not better because you're louder. You're not better because you reflect more and you take more caution when you make decisions. We're all the same. But it can help you a lot if you understand, first of all, where you are. Second of all, how the other person might be thinking about all that type of stuff. And then third, how can you find common ground in the middle? So that might just be a different talking point, but if you've got any opinions on that, be brave, write them down below, and get involved with each other. Start to see the common ground rather than just the differences. So I think that's probably going to be about enough for me. If you're interested in putting your input into the podcast on that unhealthy industry piece, then get in touch with me privately. I'll let you do that privately, and we can discuss it. I'm looking for about 5 or 6 people. I've got 2 at the moment. 6 would be a nice round figure, but it has to be that you have had this moment of clarity when you went, I'm not accepting this as my norm, and you've made changes, and I want to hear what impact that's had on your life. So, thank you for watching in the better light with a better camera, and get stuck in below. Okay, until then, until next time, take care. I will be here.